Well, that's the beauty of this new format that the NBA has in these home-and-home series for the Sixers and the Orlando Magic, the rest of the NBA, of course. After a tough loss on Wednesday, the Sixers, they get another opportunity to bounce right back against this basketball team, see where they need to improve on against the same team, similar to a playoff format when you get to go right back to it against the opponent that you lost to in such a close one on Wednesday night. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers Pregame show, presented as always by our good friends from Coors Light. It's a Friday night, so you might as well decide to simply choose chill. And with our pregame show sponsored by Coors Light, visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball to get Coors Light delivered or to find a store near you. We'll check in with the guys from the arena ahead of this game to see what's the latest of this 7 o'clock start instead of a 7:30 start on this Friday alongside Rich Hoffman. I'm Devon Givens, JP, in with us again. All of you there in the chat, a lot to discuss here tonight. We'll give our Bet365 picks a little bit later. We'll talk about the latest update on Joel Embiid because the center minutes will be an issue potentially tonight. Maybe because the young guy is going to be out. We'll see about Andre Drummond. Looks like he's good to go. See what he gives them, though, in those minutes. Where else can we possibly see Nick Nurse go for those front court minutes? But tonight we do start with where we begun the post-game show on Wednesday with Tyrese Maxey and Rich. It's not about tonight simply going after Tyrese Maxey because of how poorly he was. It's just simply, Rich, how do you get him back on track? After a day off and looking at what happened, 16.6 in that final frame, after struggling throughout the first three quarters, only 10 points through those three quarters, but they were in the game. 6 points as he did. He really blitzed them. He turned it on to and helped the Sixers get some points on the board when they needed them. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough as he was well under, basically about 9 points under his season average of 25 points. How do you get him back on track tonight against this Orlando Magic team? Paul George returns. We'll talk about him next. Is that one of the ways to get Tyrese Maxey back on track offensively?
Of course, right? You have Paul George. You have another dynamic player. You have somebody that will definitely generate more attention from the defense. I'd also like to say for everybody who's choosing chill, I mean, you can't really choose chill. You are opting into the chill outside, Devon. It is freezing, so I hope everybody is staying warm in the house or even in the arena because the Wells Fargo Center is pretty cold, man.
It's always cold in there.
It's always cold. Hopefully the Sixers can warm everybody up a little bit with a nice effort tonight. Yeah, man, I think Paul George coming back, that's going to be huge. I have a lineup I would like to see. I was kind of looking at the lineup data.
Okay.
And this is beyond Tyrese Maxey. This is more just it's a five-man unit that I would like to see that he is certainly involved in. So KJ Martin and Gershon Yabusele. If you look at the on-off numbers, it generally points to that those guys are two of the most helpful players for the Sixers so far this year. It's early. I'm not saying those guys are perfect. Some of it is that a guy like Andre Drummond, who is back in the lineup tonight, has struggled so far this season. But those guys have been considered helpful so far this year. I think with Yabusele, it's probably a little bit easier to see what's going on. KJ Martin, his offense does frustrate me a little bit, even though he has developed a nice rapport with Tyrese Maxey in the pick and rolls, kind of some very supercharged, fast pick and rolls. They match each other's tempo a little bit. But KJ Martin has the athleticism and the defensive chops that clearly he is providing something positive for these guys that's not that easy to see at all times. So anyway, those two guys, Paul George, and then the two small guards. We have not seen that unit all year, Devon, at all. Like we haven't seen it once. And I'm not saying that needs to be the starting lineup tonight. Has the starting lineup come out yet?
I haven't seen it. I'll check it while you talk.
So Nick Nurse the other night decided to go with wings. To start, he went with Kelly Oubre in McCain's place, which it's understandable, right? You can get the three-man switching unit with Martin, with George, and with and with Oubre as well. Obviously, that unit sort of melted down at the end of the game offensively. I would just like to see this group for a little bit. Now, here's a question for you as you have the starting lineup. What is it?
It is Drummond at the 5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yabusele at the 4. Paul George, Kelly Oubre, and Tyrese Maxey.
Okay, so not exactly the lineup I was looking for to start the game. Maybe they get to it in the middle of the game, though. I don't.
Let me double check.
Usually,
right, there it is.
Yeah, I don't usually think the starting lineup has to be your greatest lineup. But so Drummond gets the start. Yabu at the 4.
Mm-hmm.
You get a little bit more size in there. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I would like to see that group. And Devon, here is a question that it's something that I've seen brought up in reading over the last few days. And I'm curious to see what everybody in the chat thinks about this as well. We know that positions in the NBA are a little bit more fluid than they were in the past, right? Sometimes you get a Chris Paul type, the traditional point guard who's really making every single decision.
Mm-hmm.
It's often not the case in a league that values versatility and wings and all of these different things. But is there an argument to getting Maxey off the ball more? And I'm not really saying stick him in a corner and just wait for corner threes too. I'm just saying diversify how he gets the ball. Run him off some more of those Iverson screens. Run him off maybe a little zipper cut and then have that flow into the pick and roll. Just let him see kind of different angles and different ways to get the ball. Is there an argument for that? Especially now, it's really not just that you have McCain bringing the ball up as well. You also have Paul George available to bring the ball up and sort of be the primary initiator.
I answer your question with a yes, because after struggling against Charlotte, even though they won the game, he struggled once again against the Charlotte Hornets. It just carried over into the game against the Magic on Wednesday. So Tuesday to get the win didn't really affect them all that much, but it stood out glaringly because they lost the game against a very, very good team in Orlando. And I say that because when you talk about taking him off the ball and helping him out in that way, and Paul George is naturally going to do so, with Caleb Martin brought the ball up a few times in the game on Wednesday against the Orlando Magic, and I thought what you were saying is for that very reason, to get him going that way where you can have somebody not necessarily initiating it, but just having him run off of stuff.
It's not even the primary initiator. It's just a guy that can dribble the ball up the floor and then pass to the guy who you want to run the action.
Right, and you saw Caleb Martin doing that a few times in Wednesday's game against the Orlando Magic. For whatever reason, that didn't happen for a lot of it, but we did see Jared McCain with it, Kelly Oubre from time to time. But I often wonder in a case like this, especially when he's struggling, do you need somebody who's much better at putting it right in the shooting pocket, making sure that the pass is right on the money as he is coming around that screen? So if he does decide to use that burst, Rich, to keep it going fast towards the basket where it's going to be generating, again, an offensive opportunity at the rim, or maybe, as we've talked about, maybe incorporating a mid-range game off of some of that action. And he doesn't feel like he's forced to keep it because, unfortunately, the other guys may not be able to make a shot from the outside, even though Oubre and McCain were knocking down their shots. So I would say yes, Paul George in, and when McCain comes into the game, that's the other second guy who can also, we've seen he's handled pressure much better. And we've talked about it, that he's not even afraid anymore of the all defensive guys.
Summer league.
Oh, even in preseason,
can this guy even get the ball off the floor?
Exactly, and that has not been a problem. So with that, McCain has found his shooting touch again. Maxey has to find his. McCain can help you win games all that he wants, but we know it really funnels through Tyrese Maxey when he's out there on the floor. So yes, using the others to help him off ball, get him back into that groove again. Same way we saw it with James Harden, where he was bringing up, and he's an elite passer. So it's a little bit different, but Paul George is a good passer. He can do those things. He's a veteran. He knows how to get those things done. And while you still don't have Embiid, we know that there's an offense geared around Maxey and George when Embiid is not on the floor. Use that for where you have both of them alternating in those spots. And if it's any indication of what we've seen from Paul George since he's been back from this injury, is that that's what he's trying to do early. He's looking to pass first and get others going instead of having him look for his shot first. He's initiating, he's generating offense for others. He is really setting up his teammates, and I think that's how you get Maxey going tonight. Paul George gets the ball first, bring the ball up the floor, and hey, Maxey, you come off of those zipper screens, you come off of some of those pin downs, those curls, and get you an easy look. And even if it's not his shot, what we have seen too is those passes at the rim for his big men, both Yabusele, Abona, KJ Martin, and now Andre Drummond. If the defense really starts to crash on him and that leaves Drummond wide open at the rim for an easier bucket, then that's also a good opportunity for him to he didn't make it, but he saw his teammates making how easy that was, and that'll make him feel much better coming down the other way on the offensive side.
Well, and a lot of the success that Maxey had last year, and Neil actually pointed this out in the chat, that he needs to be off the ball more. A lot of the success he had was off the ball, right? Because even if he was bringing the ball up, they were throwing it to Joel at the top of the key, and then those two were playing with each other, right? They're playing off each other and trying to figure out how to score, and it was really kind of a beautiful two-man dance that they had going on. So that's one of the ways. I think, and a lot of people have brought up, they brought it up the other night when I was talking about him as well, that Maxey is at the top of the scouting report, that he is somebody who is dealing with a lot of the attention now. Well, one way to kind of surprise the team that's loaded up against him is move him off the ball. And they have to focus on whoever is initiating the offense. I'm sure Paul George naturally will take some of the defensive attention off him because, look, I mean, Paul George, great player, great shooter. He can really shoot it as well. I mean, great game the other night as well. But you can kind of diversify it a little bit. So that's one thing I would do. So,
but they're going to make they're going to make George. They're going to make George prove it because the one time that they saw him, that was in Orlando. He did not play well in that game that we talked about. That was McCain.
Joel didn't either.
Maxey, who really had it going.
McCain dunking, and Maxey was on the broadcast with Kate Nalla, and he was going nuts for him dunking.
Yep.
So Tyrese did not get to play in that game.
You're absolutely right. So Maxey did not play in that game. That was McCain playing well off of the other two and having the other contributions from those other guys. So with it though, yeah, he's gonna have to prove to them because they're gonna feel like most likely we can individually defend Paul George until he shows us that he's worthy of throwing that extra help. Maxey, we already know, so let's slow him down. Let's make it difficult for him, and they'll find ways to then eventually get two men on both of them from time to time, throwing double teams at them, especially with McCain coming off the bench. They're going to do that. And that's where Maxey's just going to have to – he's seen this before, Rich. So when this brought up that the scouting report is going directly to him, absolutely. But it was doing so last year too in the 30 games that Joel was not playing because James Harden was in Los Angeles and Joel Embiid was on the sideline, and Tyrese Maxey was the one who was the main option for the 76ers last year. So he's seen it before. Hopefully he can adjust to it much quicker than he has and get back to a good performance tonight because they're going to face a very, very, very ugly defense on Sunday where you hope that carries over from tonight into Sunday against the Chicago Bulls.
Here's a question for you. Do you know how many minutes that Paul George and Tyrese Maxey have shared the floor for this season?
So if it's 6 for the big three, 6 in total, I would say for them from Phoenix, Charlotte.
Yeah, they played
total minutes.
A few games. Total
minutes, I would say 170 minutes total.
Only 93.
Gee, I was trying to push that up there. Wow.
Yeah. So, and they have a +5 net rating in those minutes, and obviously that doesn't really matter. That's you need a much larger sample than that to go too nuts about how they're going to play. But that's it in a season where not a lot has gone right for these guys. All right, +5 net rating when your the two big guns who are really the only guys who are sniffing the floor right now have played. That's something to look at moving forward. Do you know how many minutes that Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, and Jared McCain have played together this year?
Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain. If they played 90, I would say they have played 56.
14.
I'm way off.
Yeah.
Way off.
It's just something I would like to see a little bit more because this team has been so bad offensively so far this season. We know about the rebounding problems. We know about the size issues. I'm not saying that playing the two guards and PG are going to automatically solve those. I just want to see them score like 125 one night and see three guys who can dribble, pass, and shoot at the same time. That is something I would like to see. And getting PG back tonight is big, right? Now, unfortunately, you weren't able to take advantage of you weren't able to get a win when he sits the other night. You got to take advantage tonight. And a lot of times, Devon, I don't have the numbers for this, but it felt like in these newer 2-game sets, these short baseball series that they have in basketball now, it feels like it's pretty hard for the team that wins the first game to win the second game. There have been a lot of times, and this is just anecdotally for me, that the Sixers win the first game against a team that is worse than them over the past few years. That second game tends to be much, much harder. So You got to hope that's the case for Orlando tonight.
My only concern with that tonight, and you're absolutely right, is this, that your best bet was probably Orlando on the second night of a back-to-back, just like you were. So it's just a battle of wills at that point of who's going to fight through playing a game the night before plus travel to get to Philadelphia. You had them right where you wanted them. You had them on the ropes. Tonight, they're not going to take you lightly. They're going to come right after you, and they're going to try to knock you out and knock you out as quickly as possible because they don't want a repeat of what happened on Wednesday where you did keep them close. You did have them on the ropes, and they had to fight through it and get the win. So that's the one reason it worries me tonight is that you had them right where you wanted them on Wednesday.
It was an opportunity. And
because I would have bet that they would have lost tonight if they would have won on Wednesday night.
Yeah. Well, let's hope, right? That's why they play the games, man.
It is.
So speaking of the game on Wednesday, how about that Thursday win for the Sixers? They won the last 2-minute report, as they always do. Does that actually matter for them? No. But they did rule that Tyrese Maxey got fouled. Duh. They actually said it would have only been a 2-point shot. I still think it would have been a 3-point shot. I don't know. It felt like he was in the gather, but obviously
I thought he was in the gather, just like you did.
A pretty big miscall there.
Yeah, because you at least extend the game a little bit. Because if he makes the 2 free throws, it's a 1-point game at that point. So it's a 1-point game, and you foul quicker. You never know what happens at the free throw line. For the Orlando Magic, they maybe make 1, maybe make 2. You still have a chance to get a 3-pointer once again to tie the game. So that's unfortunate that for the Sixers, who are already battling their own issues as it is, that something like that happens in the moment. May have lost the game anyway, but you would like for it to be done correctly so you can see how it plays out fairly for both teams.
I have one other smaller question in terms of lineup and matchup data. Mm-hmm. So I was looking at have you ever seen on NBA.com, they have the matchups, like what a certain player shoots against when every player is the primary defender.
Yes.
Now that gets probably cited a little bit too much because it can be very noisy. It can be, a guy coming over to help in secondary defense when somebody gets blown by and he gets credit for giving up a bucket. Anyway, though, I did look the other night, and when you looked at Franz Wagner, huge night, he gave everybody on the Sixers work the other night, except for one guy.
Kelly Oubre.
No. He had a really good night against Kelly Oubre. Ricky Council IV. Is somebody here, JP? No. Ricky Council IV, your boy, your guy, our guy.
Go get him, Rick.
Our guy. I thought he did the best job. Like, I thought that matched up with what I saw. I don't know whether Ricky was maybe just a little too energetic for Franz. He wasn't ready for that. But I felt like he had a much harder time scoring on Rick down the stretch. So maybe we see a little bit more Rick tonight. Yeah,
when you brought it up in the postgame show on Wednesday, we talked about the physicality that he brought on the floor when he defended him in that fourth quarter and made him really work to get those shots off, whether they fell or not. He really made him earn those points. So, maybe that's an indication that they saw what you saw. They saw it on film on Thursday, and they decided that, hey, we need to find some spot for Ricky maybe a little bit sooner. And look, Paul George might get that assignment also at some point tonight where maybe he also defends him pretty well, and you have a combination of throwing him off a little bit there with Ricky and Caleb Martin coming off the bench. The same thing with Kelly Oubre in the starting lineup where you're throwing multiple defenders that can really give him a little bit of fits, as we say, tonight.
We have seen Paul George off-ball defense has been pretty good so far to start the year. Sometimes he gets a little too overeager in cheating off his man in the corner, but he also does get some steals and some deflections. That's probably going to be key. I think you'd rather put Ricky or Kelly, even though he got lit up the other night, on Franz to start, and then maybe have PG helping off somebody in the weak side. It could make a difference, though.
Who would that candidate be? Would that be
in their starting lineup?
I would say it can't be Suggs, so probably Pope.
Are they going to go with the two bigs tonight?
Orlando?
Yeah, they went with Goga and Wendell the other night. I actually thought that was an easier lineup to score on. Like Goga
I did too.
Goga is somebody who they can target. I thought Maxey he got most of his points when he got Goga up on the screen. He wasn't really able to deal with him.
I know the Magic had theirs up earlier. I'm just going to take a peek here and see what their starting lineup looks like.
So
Magic
it was the classic Ricky game the other night too, where he ends up
two bigs.
He ends up getting that hot potato 3, which would have tied the game, or they would have been able to take a lead. And it's one of those where I don't blame him for shooting it. He's open, but he's probably not the guy you want to shoot in that spot.
And Tyrese Maxey did the
I love
right
the confidence
thing.
in one hand, but
and Maxey did the right thing of passing it to the open man. And Ricky, you know him. He's firing that shot off. He's not putting the ball on the floor that late. He wants to take that shot, be the hero, and make sure it gets done. Let's move on to Paul George. A little bit of more of what you'd like to see tonight, not just the defensive part that you just mentioned, but offensively. We mentioned about getting him some Maxey help, but for him himself, what are you looking at with the day off after having arguably his best performance against the Charlotte Hornets on Tuesday?
Well, like Maxey, he needs to make his threes, and he made his threes against Charlotte. His superpower right now, Devon, is coming off the screen and firing. Paul George at this advanced stage of his career, and certainly when he's been dealing with all of these injuries with his lower body, he can't blow by defenders in the same way. So how does he create advantages? It's that he still has a very good handle, and coming off the screen, he can rise up and shoot. Now, I think what's going to happen for Orlando is they're going to blitz the heck out of it tonight. And I think he's going to have to drop it off to Drummond, to KJ, to Yabu. And like we've kind of been talking about with Maxey for a lot of the year, when he's getting those screens, even Jared a little bit as well, just get off the ball, give it to your big man, and hope that the Sixers can get a good shot with that. I mean, but besides that, I think he needs to be aggressive, right? Like he is, along with Tyrese, along with Jared, he's the guy who should be taking most of the shots for the Sixers, and Orlando's going to be schemed against him. So he's got to be aggressive in whether it's drawing fouls in transition, which he's done a pretty good job of pushing the pace at times, even taking some wild threes once in a while, because this is not a very good offensive team. I just want to see him aggressive tonight.
Yep, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Just be aggressive. Go out there and play the same way you did on Tuesday night, where you were able to go out there and get yours finished with that 29, knock down those threes that you talked about. He was really good. Hopefully the day off helps him out when it comes to his knee and the knee management overall. Looking at the big men, Noah Dembona.
Yeah.
Kyle talked about it post-game, and he's out tonight because of
let us know.
Little soreness in the knee. So great work by Kyle on Wednesday, letting us know about that. He is out tonight. Andre Drummond is back. He's starting. Yabusele is normally the backup 5. Imagine he's going to be the backup 5 tonight. So how would you like to see those minutes dispersed around overall? Drummond is dealing with an ankle injury. He's a big man, so it could bother him from time to time. If those two are your primary backups, where's the third way you go? Is it KJ Martin? Do you go Nance for the first time? Where do you go?
I don't know. Tom Jackson in the chat saying that the Sixers should go to Pete Nance, who, by the way, it's been pretty heartwarming to see Larry Nance, Pete Nance's brother, just throw his arms around the Sixers, even though he plays for another NBA team. He's photoshopping himself, ringing the bell. Anyway, that's nice to see, right? That's
big time Sixer fan there.
Some nice brotherly love there. That is good to see. Yeah, I don't know where they go besides those two. I think maybe you just stagger it. So you get Yabu out of the game pretty early. You let Drum have his run. It's kind of what they used to do during the Brett Brown years with Joel Embiid and JJ Redick, where you play those guys for really only 4 or 5 minutes to start. You let Drummond have the 8-9 minute run. That's a lot of minutes for Andre Drummond coming off an injury too. I don't even know if he's capable of doing that, considering he was a game time decision. I'm not sure you even want to play him this much, but you kind of are limited at the center position right now. And then you get Yabu back in the game, and then you rotate on and off. And if both of those guys are playing well, you can close with them in each half as well. That's kind of how I think it'll go, but we'll see.
I think you might see some KJ minutes there at the 5. You're just gonna have to double and make sure you help out team rebound if someone gets in foul trouble and they have no choice. I would think they go Martin over Nance. So as Winona asks, Philly girl on Twitter on the chat, she says Nance tonight. I don't know. Maybe if they see a couple of minutes where he can get in there, but I would suspect that Nurse might go. He's gone small ball before with KJ Martin. Maybe he goes in that direction out there, potentially, especially if George is able to play an extended amount of minutes.
I mean, look, it's an option, and I don't really know too much about Pete Nance except he has the great lineage with his dad and his brother as well. But hey, it would be interesting, right? It would be something new.
Yep. What do you with the Drummond though? With the Drummond piece back, just you're gonna have to. These guys get after it, especially when you see Jonathan Isaac come into the game, as we saw. If Isaac is playing tonight, I haven't checked the injury report on him. I'll do that right now. But
I'm a little worried. I'll tell you about Drummond.
Yeah.
With a great defensive team in Orlando, No, the Sixers had trouble rebounding.
Isaac is out.
Okay. So the Sixers had a lot of trouble rebounding the other night, but it's the trade-off that they always make. They were playing Yabusele at the 5, and they were getting pretty good shots, right? They were able to space them out. So Drummond, you have somebody who should be able to, in theory, hasn't always been the case this year, and that's been disappointing, should be able to battle these guys on the offensive glass. And he better, because I think, when you let Wendell Carter or somebody guard him, when you let Mo Wagner guard him, like the spacing is going to be a little bit clogged. So the Sixers, they're going to have to be on point in terms of like when to use him as a screener, when to put him in the dunker spot, all of those things. We'll see. Drum has been pretty rough this year, guys. I feel like we've been pretty positive so far, but you kind of need him in that you don't really have any other centers right now, but he's been pretty rough. So hopefully he had a couple decent games by his standards right before he got injured. Hopefully he can pick up where he left off.
At best, I'm thinking 25 minutes for Drummond tonight at best at that center position. Batase getting to start at the 5, Wendell Carter again at the 4, same lineup as Wednesday.
Gotta hunt Goga.
Franz, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Jalen Suggs rounding out the starting 5 for the Orlando Magic. What do you do to slow down Franz, man, outside of Ricky? He was phenomenal. 35 points. He was tremendous. I mean, you can see it right now. If Paolo is not going to have enough games under his belt for them to have someone in the All-Star game representing them, it's definitely going to Franz Wagner. He's been that good.
He's been awesome. And the tough thing about him, you saw it the other night, he hunts out the Jared McCains, even the Maxies of the world. Smart, and he's physical, and he's really – you said it when we were watching the game the other night. He was a disaster in the playoffs last year. It feels like he's the Austin Powers, man. He's got his mojo back.
Yeah. And maybe it was just simply going to the Olympics this summer. And
he's always been good for Germany in FIBA play. But yeah, he's got his NBA mojo back right now.
He's the number one option. Paolo's not there. He's the primary. But when Paolo was there, he was still pretty good. So Franz is going to be a handful. They already know that. Figure out a way to stop it. All right, let's get to our picks here. Our Bet365 pick segment brought to you by Bet365. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. We're not going to sit here and pat ourselves on the back because we got to get through this again. We got to put together another one, Rich, for the people. It's the weekend. They want to go shopping tomorrow and get some more gifts out the way. So, JP, let's run them. Our picks for tonight. Same game parlay for me tonight. Franz, over 26.5. He's been on a roll, man. He's been on a tear. 26.5 seems like an easy number right now. So with that, I went with the over 26.5 for him. And with Paul George back, and the guy that we know in Tyrese Maxey, forget about the Paul George factor of it. It's the guy that we know as a proud basketball player, proud person, proud basketball player.
Yes,
that's just simply going to go out there and work and find and fix whatever the problem is. And I picked Tyrese Maxey over 2.5 threes. I didn't go crazy and say he's going to knock down 5 or 6. I just simply said over the 2.5 there. So 26.5 points over for Franz Wagner. Tyrese Maxey knocking down over 2.5 threes for the Sixers tonight. That's a plus. I think it was a plus. I'm sorry, I didn't give the plus numbers, the odds to JP when I sent them this by accident. It is a plus. And right now at Bet365, they have a 30% profit boost on Bet365 for the NBA tonight. So if you want to use it on this one or Rich's pick, you can go ahead and do so. Rich, your pick is?
It's the man that Jeannie just said. She just called him Ben Wallace.
Ben Wallace. I love it, Jeannie. Love it, Jeannie.
Now, Ben Wallace was not much of a passer. There we go, JP. Good sound effect there. Not much of a passer, Ben Wallace, but Yabusele has a little bit of skill. And I think the Magic, they're going to do anything they can to prevent Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, and Jared McCain from shooting those threes off the dribble.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Love that number.
Little pocket pass, throw it to Ben Wallace on the 4-on-3. He's got to make decisions. He has been over this number in both of his last 2 games. I think we get it again tonight. Just because the Magic are a focused team on the defensive end that really kind of makes them play. They make the other team play the way they want. I'm not saying that Tyrese and McCain and Paul George won't get theirs. That's not usually how it works. But in the half court, I think there will be opportunities for Yabusele to find his teammates for buckets.
He did it the other night when we were looking for him to make sure he got over that 20.5 number that I had before the game for our Bet365 pick segment. With it, I was like, yo, shoot the ball, man. Go ahead to the basket so we can cover this number. But he was doing the right thing by getting into the middle of the defense, turning, pivoting, under control, finding the open man as he saw that the defense was scrambling. And that's a great number by you with that 3+. So once again, our Bet365 pick segment was brought to you by Bet365. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment's never ordinary. Bet365 must be 21+ and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, before we say goodbye, Rich, your quick prediction. Keeping it close.
Usually
winning.
when we say loss, it's either a win or it's close, or it's like a worthwhile game, something that keeps everybody at least interested for 48 minutes. So I'm going to say loss and hope that my reverse jinxing powers, I do kind of think it's going to be a loss, but I hope that my reverse jinxing powers do work. Maybe I'm negating it by saying that I am reverse jinxing, but I do think it will be a competitive game, especially with Paul George back. I think it's gonna come down to the last minutes, and the Magic had a little bit better of the execution in that fourth quarter down the stretch last night. Can the Sixers do it? I mean, they have another guy who's certainly capable, certainly did it earlier this week in Charlotte. Let's see it.
I think they compete very well tonight, like they did against them on Wednesday. And unfortunately, though, at the end, I do believe that they fall just short. I think it's a game, though, throughout the 48 that we're talking about, where it's not a 110-100 loss at the end, and we say, oh, it wasn't even that close. No, it was that close, but free throws at the end, maybe a missed shot here and there at the end extends the lead for the Magic, and they get the win. So we'll see how it goes. We'll be back after the game with all of you to discuss, to see what happens with this basketball team against the Orlando Magic. Paul George is back. The two bigs get the start, Drummond and Yabusele. What do those center minutes look like? We'll discuss it all after the game. We appreciate our sponsor, Coors Light, our pregame show is presented by Coors Light. Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball to get a Coors Light delivered or to find a store near you. For Rich, JP, I'm Devon. We'll talk to all of you after the game right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. Enjoy the game,
everybody.
We all silly like the mayor.